Forgive me if I repeat a little bit about Dolphin, but obviously I'm the Vice President of Dolphin Digital Technologies. I'm also the founder of Dolphin Disabilities Mentoring Day, and I come with a very unique perspective. So what I share with you is partially my journey with my company, but also partially what I've learned from working with other employers who have sought us out and asked us for advice. I think the most important thing that I could share with you is that there is no singular intent or rule or guideline or recommendation or purpose in anything that we do. The most important thing is to be able to recognize if what we're doing will have an impact, because we can actually measure it and determine if the outcomes were effective or not. I think often we get stuck in a position where we're trying so hard that we forget we don't even know from what point we began, nor do we know at what point we are in order to evaluate what we are actually trying to do. And so my challenge for you is, does your vision have action? It is one thing to have an idea. It is one thing to pose a question. It is quite another to actually develop a strategy, implement a solution, and evaluate the consequences, both good and bad. In my world, we have a lot of ideas on a lot of different things. In fact, we actually have an app that collects our ideas because we got so tired of saying, what was that idea we had the other day? Nobody took note of it. And so now we have an app that actually will collect our thoughts as we say them out loud, much like we were seeing this morning with some of those examples. The reason is because we go back for them for fun and we start to test them and see if them are any good. We also go back to them to see if there's a kernel of anything of value in there that we can continue to work on. We've had a lot of fun with a lot of young people on these because we challenge them and think we're serious about some far-out suggestions. Well, maybe we should have taken some of them a little more serious, because they actually start to have some great ideas that sound like they're very plausible. Vision must have action. And in my opinion, there is potential in identifying a problem and driving what comes next. And you can do that by innovating, by fostering potential, and being able to pivot when necessary. Dolphin Digital Technologies is a very small IT firm. We specialize in utilizing technology to tackle social issues. But when we began, we were the IT guy. We were the one you called to fix your computer. What we developed was a virtual connection that allowed us to remotely connect to your computer back when no one was doing that. We targeted employing people with disabilities to be our technicians because we wanted to demonstrate that technology could create a level playing field. In fact, we made our motto, we will hire the best person for the job, the least likely to be hired by someone else. We were so determined to demonstrate that we could remove barriers to success not only for our company, but for those that we employed. At Dolphin, disabilities has never been an issue. In fact, a disability doesn't matter at all. That's our point. We focus on an individual's talent, ability, and the skills that we hope they will continue to improve on while in our employ, so that they can better themselves, better our company, and better their lives. The private sector has a vital role in the employment of persons with disabilities, but so do the employment support agencies, and so does the government. By working collaboratively, that's when we will see the best results. So do we have a vision that has action? At Dolphin, we recognized an opportunity, and instead of taking everyone's naysaying, instead of listening to the fact that they were telling us there was no way a company could do that because you cannot have a social impact, you cannot drive change socially because all you're about as a company is making money. Had we listened to that, we would never have done what we've achieved. We met with a gentleman in Europe when we were speaking at a conference one time, and we were telling him some of our concerns. You don't have any formal training in that area. You're confusing your client base. Are you not-for-profit? Are you a business? And as we continued to tell him some of the challenges that we were facing, not only as a business, but as human beings who were really caring about what we were trying to do, he looked at us like we were really dumb and said, "Why are you listening to those people? None of them have done it." Good point. Identify an opportunity and drive what comes next. We can accept that that was a solution at one time. We could accept and never think about it again, because it really did fix a problem. But by driving what comes next, you start to identify potential. You start to really understand the evolution of process and thinking when you capitalize on not just what was, but when you dream about what could be. I think we've heard a lot of incredible ideas this morning that are good indicators of what I mean. But how do we innovate? For some people, this is a challenging concept. Everyone thinks, oh, you have to come up with this big, brand new thing nobody's ever heard of before, nobody's ever seen before, we don't even know how we're doing it. My suggestion to you is, yeah, you're right. But innovation is as much using something that currently exists as something and creating an opportunity and identifying a solution to a problem as using it differently. Our biggest challenges in our everyday is we can't see outside the box because we're so head down focusing on what we need to accomplish. I mean, after all, we're working. We have an end result every day of our lives. So how are we going to sit there and think up new solutions? How are we going to develop strategies when we're so focused on what we're currently doing? We forget that the innovation process is about taking the time to evaluate how effective could I be if only I did things differently. So I'm telling you this, to innovate, ditch the typical. Get uncomfortable. Make yourself feel again. Let's take the resume. And I'm going to get some objections here, which is good, because that's how innovation happens. I think that a resume and credentials are a poor indicator of an actual potential in a human being. At Dolphin, we've not hired one person that has a formal education. We've not hired one person that submitted a resume that we looked at before we met them. Ever. And the reason is because we recognized very early on that we ourselves were not represented by the resume. So if we felt we weren't, why would we think someone else was? The resume has an ingrained bias. You see a name and you instantly think something. Yes, you do. You see a school and you instantly recognize certain things. You see a gap and you go, On my resume, which I don't have, by the way, so don't ever ask me for one, there would be a 10-month gap a few years ago when my mom had cancer, because I spent almost every moment of my every day taking care of her. So if I was to then apply to a new job after that, would someone question my ability suddenly because I'd done that? But these are the lessons that I've learned, and it would be ridiculous if I did not apply them to those people that apply to my company. I don't believe that a resume does anything except indicate previous work. There are no indicators of potential. There are no indicators of thought, feeling, behavior. Innovative traits are problem solving, open to experiences. We look at a resume that jumps all over the place. We don't like that. Open to experiences means willing to try new things, willing to think differently, willing to access a different part of the brain than they're using on a regular basis. Finding a new solution to an old problem. We currently have a problem with the development of AI. How are we going to develop unbiased algorithms if we don't talk about it, if we don't think about it, and if we don't plan for it? The future of work may be it doesn't look like anything it does today. Hot seats, virtual workers, my workers can work whenever they want, from wherever they want, however they want. I don't care. They get the job done every time. In fact, we're more communicated to the people who work for me than I imagine most companies ever are. Because we developed a strategy to capitalize on the opportunity of being a different business. We almost have zero overhead, intangible elements, not people. We are a green company. We're pretty basically paperless. We are lean, mean, innovating machine, because that's what we sought out to be. So I'm saying you have an opportunity of rethinking how you look at someone. What you see is what you look for. Foster potential and encourage developing. Encourage one another. How often do we recognize a successful moment in someone's life? Usually we have feelings, oh, I wish that was me. Oh, how'd they get that promotion? Oh, we got that done first? How about we celebrate another? Recognize the opportunity to feel part of that good. Foster potential and develop it, nurture it, and pivot to necessary. Dolphin Digital Technologies started off as a small IT firm providing IT support. That's what we did. 95% of our revenue was in support. Today, probably about 0.05% of our revenue is in support. If we hadn't pivoted, if we hadn't transitioned, if we hadn't started to develop proactive measures in changing and developing our business, we'd be dead. We would not employ people. We would not be advocating for the employment of people with disabilities. We would not be nurturing great relationships with businesses across Canada and around the world. My children would have a very different view on life. There is nothing wrong with getting uncomfortable and forcing ourselves to think in a way that we've never done before, as long as we set it up to recognize progress, measure it, know when you have success. When's the last time you said, you gotta see this? Seriously, you gotta see this. So here's a lesson on perspective. You wonder why I have a frog there. How many times did you kiss a frog to see if it would become a prince? Oh, come on, you did. You did. Don't. 24 times. Okay, 25. But the point is I was willing to keep trying to see if that would happen. You've done something like that where you do it over and over and over again. When are you going to realize that's probably never going to happen? Instead, I made great relationships, did everything that I liked, worked hard, and met my prince. You see the difference? Shopify is up there because this is a company that I recognize as driving what comes next. I'm going to likely lose somebody from my team on Disabilities Mentoring Day because they were the person in charge of photography and social media for the event, which Shopify hosted this year. They participated. They had mentors and mentees meeting on site, getting to know each other. Inclusion is a beautiful thing when you actually truly prove that it works. And that's what we're doing with Dolphin Disabilities Mentoring Day, matching skill to skill in a real-world experience with a cooperative investment in each other. It is a shared learning experience. Unfortunately or fortunately, my great employee listened as Shopify described their hiring strategy. And here's the clicker. A barista is now a team lead. As I evaluate the data on those matches that we made, I can see nothing that makes sense. I see a company that grew so fast they had to figure something else. Here's what sold my employee on wanting to apply there. During the description of the interviewing process, this company said, one of the options is, would you like to take a walk together? Because that's how they're going to get to know you. Imagine that. I'm going to ignore that. I'm kidding. My point, I will happily pay for the privilege of finishing. My point is this: if you lead with opportunity, if you recognize the value of investing in everyone so that they might fulfill their every ability. We all benefit. This is not about focusing out people. That's why I'm very specific on the words and terminologies that I use. Because personally, it is a bothersome thing to have to constantly think, where does that, I treat everyone the same. I include to the best of my ability. And I work with everyone that I can to ensure that my vision has action. So, work with me. Let's drive what's next. Remember my friend that said ignore everyone else because they've never done it? His name is Hugo, and he's driving what comes next with vehicles. It's a company called River Simple in the UK. They are changing transportation as we know it, and I have no doubt he'll do it. This car is called the Rasa. It means clean slate. Today, we have an opportunity to start from a clean slate. Let's focus our vision to ensure that it has action and drive what's next.